Welcome everyone. I am Zoe from Open Sight Hampshire, and welcome to our baking session with Penny. Today we're doing Autumn Fruitfulness, which I'm looking forward to. So without further ado, let me pass you over to lovely Penny Melville Brown, who will get us started. Hi, Penny.
Yeah. Hello, I'm lovely Penny Melville Brown. I know, you're not supposed to laugh at me like that. This is the most embarrassingly simple recipe. Okay, so please don't get overwhelmed by it. It just takes prep. It takes longer to weigh out than to actually make. So in my kiln jar here, I have my raisins, sultanas, and currants, and they've been soaking actually probably for a couple of weeks in brandy. And I am just scooping them out. Oh God, there's a disgusting. If I said diarrhea, you'd get a sense of the noise that comes out. And I can say that because we're all blind people.
Yep.
We're allowed to do things by audio. Right, so that's into my bowl here. And then I have, I'm just going to sort myself. This is going to be one of those really sticky recipes. What I've got here is my just under a pound, whatever. You know, nobody is counting too much on this recipe. And what I've got is the apple, which has been in the fridge overnight, but it's been in all the lemon juice and orange juice and the zest. So that stopped it going brown. And those are just windfalls. And that's what this recipe is all about, is using the apple harvest that we're getting at the moment. So that's just gone scooping into that bowl. I then have my box of suet, and as I said on the recipe, this is ordinary suet, but vegetarian suet is just as good. So I'm just pouring that into the bowl, and I'm going to throw the box away. Can you see how difficult this is? Here's my boxes of spices, which was mixed spice, cinnamon, and nutmeg, into the bowl. Difficult, isn't it? Here is a box of, no idea. And I'm going to taste it.
Give it a sniff.
Almond flakes,
almonds
and glacé cherries into the bowl. The complicated bit is not making sure you don't miss the bowl. Into the bowl. Last box here. I've no idea what's in here.
Sugar.
Oh, sugar. I think I've used soft brown today. You can use dark brown. Actually, I've used honey on another set of this. So this is the fun bit. This is where, did I say to you right at the start, you need a bowl of hot soapy water? No.
I've already got that prepared.
Okay.
Oh, well done, Ashton.
In with your hands and mix. And you're trying to get it as well mixed as you can. Now this is a fairly classic English sweet mincemeat. I have made a tropical version. So I would use the currants and the raisins and the sultanas as we've got as basic, but then I was using glacé cherries, nuts, could be Brazil nuts, could be any sort of nuts, but I was also adding dried mango, coconut, dried coconut, dates, what else did I use? Pineapple, dried pineapple. You could put in dried apricots, anything you like. Now, how are you doing if you're mixing?
All right.
Well, that wasn't very positive. Is it disgusting and cold? And
Yes.
sticky and horrible?
Yummy.
Yes. All of the above.
Hope you haven't got long fingernails.
Kids.
Mine are fairly long and they're painted.
What I'm doing now is I'm milking my fingers. I'm getting all the stuff off my fingers. Just going to press it down. Just going to rinse my hands. There is the mincemeat made. We have one further step now. And I'm just turning around to the oven.
Does the oven need to be on? What temperature?
I have got my oven on S, which is the lowest temperature I can do it. Alexa, what is gas mark 1/4 in degrees centigrade?
Sorry, I don't know that one.
She can't cope with. Alexa, what is gas mark 1 in centigrade?
Gas mark 1 is 140 degrees Celsius.
There we go.
On 100. 100 would do.
Okay.
Into the oven.
Do you put a cover on it at all, Penny?
Okay, I've just slapped it in the oven. Slap it in.
Okay.
And that's going to smell gorgeous when it starts cooking.
Right. Here
Yeah.
I have the mincemeat I made. I actually mixed this last night. And it's been in the oven for about 3-4 hours. And I'm just going to put a thermometer into it.
Just do these. 1, 2, 3.
Right. This one that I made earlier, I've turned it down. It had got to about 100 degrees in the bowl. And that's why it's an oven-proof bowl. I use big metal bowls.
Oh, I haven't taken the seal off this one.
At the moment, it's down to 63. So can you see it's getting pretty hot?
Mm.
And the whole point is you are melting the suet. And what it's doing is it's coating all the apple and everything else, which is part of the preserving process. So what I've got now, that's on a silicone mat there. I've got another silicone mat somewhere here. And in the oven, it is just coming out now.
Penny, is there anything else you can put in the oven at the same time? Because I'm always
Well, that's
trying
what
to.
I've just, yes, you could certainly
my
put a
oven.
casserole or something like that in. But
Would
what
an
I've
aubergine?
got here, and which I didn't put in for all that time, are the jars I'm going to store it in, because I wanted them to be sterilized by the heat.
Okay.
So what I've got is my ladle, and I'm bringing my bowl of gunk over, and it is gunk. This is the
Gunk.
bit that you can't see. Okay, I have a special little funnel that I made myself in pewter classes,
Oh, well done, you.
and that it exactly fits my jar, my preserving jars. But I tell you what, getting this stuff through it, it's very lumpy.
Mm.
So what I'm going to do is I'm putting this ladle by ladle into the jars, and then they've got rubber seals, or I've got one jam jar. And of course, what you can do with this is a really lovely Christmas present. Little jars of we make our own labels. So it says baking blind mincemeat or something like that, seasonal mincemeat. I probably put sweet or Christmas because some people are not very clever and would think it was meat. So I
Good
will put
idea.
those as part of Christmas hampers. And what I'm going to do is pass this over to Alan. And he will move all of this stuff. Can you lift that up and your silicone mat? Go on the other side. So you were saying what else could go in the oven?
Yeah.
I think you should find some storage jars. and they could be small ones that you would make jam in, or I'm using some great big ones that with rubber seals on them.
Mhm.
And about half an hour at most before your mincemeat is finished, pop them in a tray in the oven to get hot, so that you are putting this mincemeat into those hot jars. It sterilizes them. And that's really what I would always do when I'm preserving. That's what today is all about, and using up apples. So there goes mincemeat. How easy was that?
Penny, you said about making tropical. What sort of weight would you of fruit would you add into your basics of raisins, currants, and sultanas to make up for, you know, say a bottle of port or brandy?
To be honest, I think your biggest match is your suet.
Oh, okay.
You're using your suet to coat everything, the apple and anything fresh. So I think I would be using the same weight of raisins, currants, sultanas, perhaps less apple. I would, you know, I would try and use the same overall weight of dried fruit. Bear in mind that if you put something like pineapple to brandy, it will change the flavour quite considerably if you're steeping it for some time. My fruit's been soaked for about 3 weeks. If you did it, the pineapple in brandy for a long time, it would take on that flavour and you'd lose the pineappleness. So some of the fruit you can soak early, and some of it you just need to add at the end. But you also want some apple in there to give it freshness, and actually oranges and lemons really give it zing as well. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Right, I'm going to make some crumble mix now. Now, this is my absolutely bog standard crumble mix. And in this bowl, I have a pack of butter, which I have had in there for an hour or so it's quite soft. If you can make this with honey instead of sugar, and some people will prefer that. If you're going to make it with honey, you need to make it like this. So I've got the butter in here, in go the oats. And you need to think that honey has got around about 20% water in it. Sorry, that's the sous chef, just making sure you know he's still here. So what I'm doing is I'm rubbing the butter into the oats, and it's spreading the butter evenly throughout all the oats, but also the butter is fat, and it is therefore slightly coating the oats with a fatty, oily, waterproof butter. So that if you are putting honey in, which I have done on another recipe, it's not going to get the water in the honey directly in contact with all the oats, because then you might end up with rather soggy oats. Do you follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm rubbing that in very roughly because I've got more rubbing in to do. And here comes my sugar and my hazelnuts. The hazelnuts, I just put in the food processor, gave them a blast. Some of them are down to powder, some of them are still nearly whole. So I've got lots of texture in this, and I'm now still rubbing it all through. And this will take me 10-15 minutes. It's better when the butter is nice and soft, it's much easier. And what I'm going to do with this today is I was going to make you a big apple crumble. And we make a great big one and sort of live on it throughout the week. Alan's favourite is an apple crumble with some spoonfuls of that delicious mincemeat on top. and then the crumble on top of that. But one of our fellow beekeepers brought an enormous number of yellow plums.
Ooh.
So I've made a great big plum crumble because I needed to use them up fairly quickly. So here is my crumble done, and this freezes beautifully.
Okay.
You can use it straight from the fridge. You just need to break it up a little bit, but that you can. I just love it, and I always have bags of this in the fridge handy. My darling boy, have you got the bags there somewhere? I've got those sort of Ziploc bags, but you know, you could do it just in a plastic bag with a clip on it or something. You just open that.
Yeah, I've used oats before, but I've never thought of using nuts. That's a really good tip there. I'm gonna have to try
it's
that.
delicious.
Mm.
Do you know how to store nuts?
No.
Okay, may I have the other bag? I'm splitting this roughly between two bags, simply because it's easier to store two bags rather than one in the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
I always store all my nuts in the freezer.
Okay.
Nuts are mainly fat. And you think, have you ever had rancid walnuts, rancid Brazil nuts?
No.
Oh, you don't keep them as long as I do. But nuts can go off very easily.
Right.
Stale. So if you keep them in the freezer, they're easy to find. And I just
Alert, Carol has joined the meeting.
keep them in there.
Okay, that's a good tip. Thank you. Yeah, I do love, especially love Brazil nuts
All that last bit in there.
and almonds.
Penny, do you keep the nuts whole in the freezer, or do you?
Yes,
or do you
yes,
stop
yes.
them whole?
No, actually, I keep both. So I've got a bag of nuts that I put through the food processor. Just throw those in the freezer in a bag.
Right.
And then I've got when I bought the nuts originally, some of those are still in their original bags. Just lob them in.
Mm.
Great.
And it's much, much better. Some of my nuts, I'm going to confess to you, are several years old.
Mhm.
And they are still perfectly good.
Brilliant.
I
Those
do.
go in the freezer. So if I was making a crumble, I would put my fruit in the bottom. So we've talked about plums. I took the stones out of the plums. I talked about apples. So I might use a mix of cooking and eating apples. The cooking ones I'd peel and core and chop. The eating ones I would just core and chop up. I wouldn't bother to peel them. You could put a couple of spoonfuls or more, depending on how greedy your sous chef is, mincemeat on the top, and then your crumble. You could do rhubarb and crystallized ginger. That is
That sounds lovely.
Oh, yes.
you could do pear, or anything that you've got lots of fruit for. And I would pop it in the oven, and I'm doing it in a dish that is about 12 inches by 8 inches. It's quite a big dish. That'll feed us for a whole week. And I would cook that at gas mark 4, which is 180C for 40 minutes. I've also done little individual ones, and I would do them for a little bit less, perhaps 30 minutes. But you can see and you can feel and you can smell, most importantly, whether your nuts and oats and everything are overcooking. So just keep us, a nostril ready.
Yeah.
Get them out on time. Okay, so there you are, 2 recipes, and I've got a couple of other things to show you. I have things to show you. Here are 3 bottles. One is homemade apple juice. One is homemade blackberry and apple juice. Do you remember I told you we got all these blackberries?
Mm.
And he also bought us buckets and buckets of grapes. So there is homemade grape juice. And these are in these little glass bottles with these, do you remember the old lemonade lids, which have got clips on the top? and little china tops and rubber bungs. And this is what we make from our fruit. I'm going to push those out of the way. I'm going to show you this piece of equipment that we make it in. So the bottom piece, this is about 18 inches across. Think of it that size. Now, at the bottom, I have a pan with two handles, and it's got a little notch in one edge of it, which is a little round notch, which is where the spout goes in. And in here, you fill it up to a tactile maximum marker with water. And that goes on the stove, and that produces the steam, okay? Then my next piece, there are 4 pieces to this piece of kit, is the reservoir. And that has a little spout that goes into the cutout bit. And inside it, I'm going to lean it over. So I've got this 18-inch round pan. And at the bottom, it's flat. But in the middle of the bottom, there is a cone that comes up with a hole in it. And that's where the steam from the water in the reservoir at the bottom comes out from. And this is where we collect the juice, in this part of the pan. And out of the side of it, where it went into that bottom reservoir, there is a little tube, and on that is a rubber tube with a clip on it. And that's how you get the juice out of the juice collector. Now I have the third piece, which again is 18 inches across, and it is a big flat bottomed pan which fits in, but it's got holes all the way around it. And into that I throw the grapes or the apples and blackberries layered. And that goes into my pan. And then on top, somewhere, I have, thank you, sous chef, a lid. So what happens is the water heats up at the bottom, produces steam, which goes up through the cone into the fruit basket. What happens to the fruit is it gets hot, and the steam explodes all the cells that release their juice, which then drip down through the perforations in the fruit basket into the juice collecting area. And because the juice collecting area is just above the hot water, it virtually pasteurizes it. So this is the one bit where I do need help, because you want to take this juice straight out of the juice collecting area into your bottle or your container while it's still hot. And what we use, it's got this little clip which releases the juice. But because I can't tell when the bottles are full, I'm not very good at this bit. But what it does, it goes into plastic bottles, and we use old water bottles that we've just used here, and they actually collapse with the heat. So what you've got is pasteurized juice that is virtually vacuum packed in the plastic bottle, and those last for at least a year, not even in the fridge, just throw them in a corner. We've got these, also we put them to these little glass bottles, so that when we have guests, as one does, we present them with a selection of homemade fruit juices.
Very nice.
Do that with the right crimping of your lips. Would you like homemade fruit juices? But what we've also done this year, you know, you get wine in bag-in-boxes. No, you're too civilized for wine.
We are. We're too young for drinking wine.
We put honey into bag-in-boxes, but we've also now got bag-in-boxes of grape juice and apple juice. So those are in the fridge, and so we could just go in and tap off them, and then you can have them as they are, or you can dilute them.
Very nice.
It's a great piece of kit. I must have had this for, quarter of a century. You can get smaller ones. I wouldn't waste your time. It's just not worth the effort of filling it all up and cleaning it all. You want to do big quantities. I think if you don't see well, you certainly need some help to empty this, because it's coming out very hot liquid. It's not short of boiling. So don't mess about with that. Get somebody to give you a hand. But you can use this if you've got lots of plums, apples, whatever you've got in the garden. You could do pear juice if you've got a huge pear orchard. All sorts of things from this. I'm sure if you're really sad, you could do vegetable juice, but oh, life is
and how long would you have it steaming like that? Is there a particular length of time?
It depends entirely. If we tend to use windfall apples, and I just chop them up, take out the really maggoty bits and throw the rest in, and that will take an hour or two. Because what you do is you bring it up to temperature, you can hear it boiling, and once the sludge in there has got hot, then it's starting to release. Apples, we get about 4 or 5 bottles out of a full container full. Grapes, we were getting 15 bottles. So it depends entirely on the fruit, but absolutely worthwhile. If you've got that sort of house garden where you've got, or a friendly other beekeeper who brings you all these grapes. I think I made 11 litres of grape juice on Sunday. I know. I can't. It's just lovely.
And you know what's in it, don't you? I know you can buy this sort of stuff at the shop, but you know what's in what stuff you've made yourself, don't you?
And there is nothing in it. There is no sugar that we've added, no water that we've added. It is just pure.
Nice.
It's a really nice thing. So this is my dehydrator. And Alan was sort of suggesting that he likes to do things in the oven. Can I tell you, as a blind person, this is much easier. Okay, somebody bought me this from Lakeland. And so at the bottom, there is a sort of hot plate, but it's actually like a hairdryer on its side. Think of it like that. It plugs in, switches on at the plug, and there's a switch on here somewhere. And then you have a number of discs. They're plastic, they are tiered so they interlock, and they've got holes in them. They're mesh, so you can lay things on them. So there's the first one going on. So I would cover that with whatever I'm drying. Yeah. Then the next one goes on, and they slightly alternate so that you can get them at slightly different heights. They're not desperately stable when you start doing that, but so you need to just feel it. So that's them flat down, but then you can turn it and it can just go up another level. So you can do little things. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I could do 5 trays at a time. It has a lid that goes on the top. And then I would just load it all up and switch it on and leave it. And then I come back every 2-3 hours and take out anything that's dried and relocate things, turn them around, swap over the trays, and things are drying more quickly at the bottom, which is where the heat source is, not so quickly at the top. So today we've had lots of tomatoes in the garden, so we're going to just simply cut them in half. We're going to dip them in a bit of a mix of salt and pepper, layer them in here on the trays and dry them. And when they're dried, we're going to put them into olive oil, and that will be how we store them. We also do apple, so I've got lots and lots of boxes of apple, and dried things store better in cardboard, not in a plastic box, because then they'll all sweat and go mouldy. So I've got boxes and boxes of apple that I've dried, and the apple I take to, so it feels leathery. It's not going to be crisp, because otherwise that's not so much fun. And then you could do pear, you could do peppers, you could do all sorts of things in this. And it's again, if you're growing lots of things, or you've got a family that's growing lots of things, I've dried in here strawberries. I've had dried strawberries that we put in the granola. I use dried apple in the granola. It's just a great way. And again, for windfalls, I'm chopping, I don't even take the peel off. I'm chopping out the rubbish bits, taking out all the core at the center, slicing it to about 1/4 of an inch thick, little wedges like that. So they're about 1/4 of an inch thick at the edges. Laying them around, switching them on, walking away. And it may take 24 hours, but you know, I put it on during the day, switch it off at night, come back the next day and put it back on again. One of the things we found is that it's worth conditioning your dried tomatoes, for example. So what happens is we put them in an airtight box for about 24 hours. When you condition the dried things, it means that the level of dehydration, the level of moisture evens out across the contents of your box. So I literally threw them into a Lakeland box, put the lid on, left them for 24 hours so that you haven't got some that are absolutely crisp, and others that are very, very wet. It just evens it all out, and then put it in a jar, covered it with olive oil. For this year, we were trying another experiment. So I've got clip top jars, and I put them in the sous vide at 86 degrees for at least half an hour. Botulism is killed with 5 minutes at 85 degrees. So 86 degrees was my, 1 degree of sort of safety margin, and half an hour was so that the heat could penetrate all the way through the jar and the oil and the tomatoes. Apple juice from a juicer, apples in the mincemeat. The mincemeat will last a year when it's in its jars.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Blimey. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Well, put it this way, mine has lasted a year. In fact, some of it's lasted longer. But you make sure you give it a damn good sniff. What you might find is that you've got a little layer of fat on the top. And don't forget that you're using suet, which is fat. And so if that comes on the top, it's giving you an airtight seal. But I would still check it before you use it, but it certainly should last. And I've shown you how to use, your windfalls with the crumble. And the crumble lasts, well, it never lasts months because it
wouldn't be in our house.
because it is so delicious. So I hope that's given you some really good ideas.
Very good.
Certainly has, yeah. Certainly has.
Any questions?
I was going to say, Penny, I made the mincemeat last year, and I found a jar left over at the back of the cupboard, and it's still fine. And it works very well if you core a cooking apple and just put a teaspoon or two into the centre of it and bake the apple. That's really nice too.
Absolutely. All those classic, do you remember those, baked apples we used to have as children? And that's more than half a century ago. But I don't promise the mincemeat will last that long.
No.
But it is keeping, because you've got a combination in there of alcohol, sugar, fat, and the lemon and orange juice. So those are all things that will help, the contents. What is there to go off? It's only the apple.
And a deep cupboard with lots of things in front of it.
Oh.
Could you show us your homemade what do you call it? Your homemade fountain? No, not fountain. Oh goodness me! That you use to fill your bottle or your jars. The jars.
Alan.
Okay.
Alan is just going.
Oh, lovely! Just so anyone that has got some useful vision can sort of see it in a description.
There's a fun, it's rather dirty.
Right, here's a rather grubby. So what I did is I beat out a little bowl of pewter, and it's probably 4 inches diameter at the top. And so it's a little bowl, and then my tutor pewter cut out the bottom, and she made a little collar that I took one of my jam jars. Have you got the jar, Donny?
It's fine.
It's full now?
Yeah.
So here's my little jam jars. These are 8 ounce jars. And I buy these from the jam jar shop. And I've been buying these for years because it's, you know, I encourage people to bring them back. I reuse them. And this funnel perfectly fits these jars so that even I can fill it safely. So I've got a nice big surface area to aim for.
Yeah.
And I know that it's nice and stable in the jar because the collar fits it. Oh, what have you got, darling?
No, it's just the same jar we use for honey.
Yes, yes.
But,
With Alan's very posh label.
All right.
Designed by himself and Toby.
Very good.
Done.
So that, and then we've got the labels designed. We just print them off on the printer, stick them on, or I don't stick them on because, you know, blind people sticking labels is a bit, you know.
Could be upside down or something.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't mind at all asking for help. But I would make a hamper. So they might have marmalade, chutneys, some candied Seville orange peel, some little Christmas cakes. You could do the ginger biscuits that we did. We know how to make shortbread now.
Yeah.
And actually, as people get more mature, they have most of the stuff they need. And something that's really delicious and homemade with lots of effort into it can be really precious.
Sure.
So, you know, don't be proud. Get somebody to help you with things that are hot and likely to make more mess than you want to clear up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Have a shoe chef that will wash up for you as well.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's brilliant. And what we're trying to do is when we put this video on YouTube, we will add the links to the different things that you've suggested, like those steamer things that you suggested to dry stuff, and also to make the juices, because I'm really interested in making juices now, because as I say, sometimes when you buy shop stuff, they do add some sort of something in there, don't like a bit of sugar or something. But to make them yourselves, you know what's in it, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Pure.
Yes, you want something, you know, we've been really lucky with this Peter, the fellow beekeeper, with everything that he's bought, you know, pounds and pounds of blackberries. And I couldn't freeze anymore, the freezer's full. So I thought, well, I'll try blackberry and apple juice. And our trees are prolific, his plums are prolific, and his grapes are, you know, oh God. Yes. So we've ordered some more bag-in boxes because he's bringing another huge bucket of them tomorrow.
Wow. We'll be making wine next, shall we? Shall we make some wine?
We are thinking about mead.
So has anyone got any more questions for Penny?
I have. It's Ashton.
Hello, Ashton.
Hello. When you go to actually make up the crumble, do you put the crumble on the top, and how long do you bake it for?
Right. If I was making an apple crumble, or you saw the plum crumble, I think that I made, that was fresh fruit chopped in the bottom, crumble on the top, into the oven, gas mark 4, 180 degrees centigrade.
Okay.
40 minutes.
40 minutes was that?
40.
Yeah.
If you were making smaller individual ones, I'd probably 25, 30. I'd be smelling it, listening to it, touching it, just slightly less. The crumble will get slightly crisper as it goes on, but actually it's the fruit underneath that will get overcooked, I think, because it's
Okay, any more questions? No?
No, thank you.
Okay. So our next session, because we're going to do these every second Monday of the month. So our next session of our baking session is on the 11th of October. Just remind me, Penny, what do we do? I couldn't remember what we were doing for the recipe.
I think we're going to try a winter warmer casserole.
Wow, yes.
Tarragon. So tarragon chicken, which will have some lemon and garlic and chicken. And I just use chicken thighs.
Okay.
They work better for a long cook. So it'll be just dead simple. Throw it all in, walk away. You know, cook some vegetables, do some mashed potatoes. A jacket potato could go in at the same time. Whatever you feel like.
Mm.
I always I get trays of chicken thighs. I get about 9, which is not good for 2 people, but you know, one of those and the vegetables, it's enough for a meal. So that gives me boxes of meals that then I can freeze for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So that will be on the 11th of October at the same time at 10:30 on Zoom. So if you want to register for that, we will be putting that up on Eventbrite. If you have any problems at all, you know, registering on Eventbrite or even joining the Zoom on the day, get in touch with Open Sight and we'll be happy to help where we can. But I'd just like to thank you, Penny, for doing this delicious autumn fulfillness. It's certainly inspired me, especially with the nuts in the crumble. I can't wait to try that, because I say I've used oats before, but the nuts in the crumble, and to freeze my nuts as well. I've never thought of doing that, or never knew to do that. So that's really inspired me. And as I say, we would try and put the links in the video of the different equipment that Penny has suggested to do different things, to preserve different things in the kitchen ourselves. So absolutely brilliant. Thank you ever so much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you,
Penny.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you,
Bye,
Penny.
everyone.
Yeah, thanks all for coming. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Meeting.